Hey, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. This is Two Chicks Caternix, here to give you the scoop, not the poop, on Caternix quail. My name is Leah with Southern Biophiliac Urban Farm down in Florida. And tonight we're actually going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is waste reduction and what to do actually with all the poop and every other little thing that the quail like to give us. So, tonight, uh, waste reduction, we are starting off with poop. Um, Quail leave a lot of manure behind. They're little pooping machines. We all know it very well, those who've had, any of them. But one of the best things you can do with the quail manure is to compost it for your garden. It's an excellent compost once it's composted down. So quail manure is considered a hot item in the garden. So it, with the ammonia and the nitrates that it carries, it does need to be composted down before you add it to plants. Reason being is fresh off the trays, that manure is hot and it can burn the plants. So you want to compost it down. And generally, the time frame in which it composts is going to depend on your location. So, like down here, down south, when it's super hot, our manure composts down very, very quickly, usually within about 3 months. But in cooler months, or if you're in a cooler climate, that can take up to 6 months for that to compost down and be very safe to put on your plants. Another thing people will do with the poop, which is something that I think is cool, and I think it depends on what part of the country you're in if you actually have access to this. But people will make what's called soldier fly bins, and they're bins that they utilize to fill up with manure and actually trap in soldier flies. And what those soldier flies will do, they will go into those bins, they will eat away all that waste, and then those little flies go into they'll start in a larval state and then they'll go to pupate into adults, and people will use like a collection device to collect those, and those can actually be used as treats for other animals. So that's a way to actually get rid of your waste and get something back in return, another way. And the cool thing with the soldier flies is they will break that manure down in only 21 days. It's really, really super fast, which is really awesome. So if you have a plethora of eggs, there's multiple things you can do. The garden thing to do is if you've, eaten the eggs, take the eggshells, you can actually bake them or put them out in the sun to dry them out. And then you can crush and crumble those and put those around your plants to add calcium to the soil. So that's an excellent thing that you can do with those. My favorite thing though to do with extra eggs is to pickle them. So then we'll use the shells after, but I love to pickle them. That's my favorite way to have quail eggs, especially with pickled beets. I love the combo. It's awesome. Another thing, like you can turn your eggshells into crafts. People do that all the time. You can use the whole shell, half the shell, crumble up the shell. I've seen people make candles with them. So there's a lot of different craft ideas out there so that you don't waste those shells. And then some people also will actually bake the eggshells, and those can be fed back to pets. And of course, if you feed anything back to your pets, always, ask your vet if it's okay first. And then feathers. So there's always feathers, no matter where quail are. And a lot of times there's even more of them if they decide to go through a molt. We don't have ours molt too often unless they've actually been through like a stressful situation. But you could have feathers left over from plucking birds if you've dispatched them, or just extra feathers you have around. So with those feathers, what you can do is, again, some people will use these for crafts. I've seen some really beautiful craft projects made out of feathers. A lot of them I want to try myself, but haven't yet had the chance. And then feathers can, again, go in the garden. And then what to do with all the other bits and pieces and parts. if you do dispatch your own quail, there's usually a lot of parts and pieces that, we don't tend to eat. So there's multiple things that you can do to try to be less wasteful with those parts. One of those things you can do is actually take the bones and actually make a very beautiful broth out of them. If you simmer the pieces down that you're not planning on eating with some nice spices and different vegetables, you can make a very beautiful broth that you can freeze or go in the refrigerator for a few days that you can save for later. That's actually, it's one of my favorite things to do with extra bones is to make broth so that we have on hand for later. Some of those like feet and spines and parts and pieces can actually be dehydrated or even freeze dried to feed to pets. That's an option as well. Any of the parts that we don't eat, they tend to like as treats, so that's also an option. And a lot of people will use like the wings, feet, other parts of the bird to either dry them, dehydrate them, and turn them into crafts. So there's a lot of crafting options that you can do with quail, which is pretty cool. One thing that you don't hear about too often, but I do like to bring up, is take a process to make this work. If you do dispatch quail and you do collect that blood that comes out of them and into a bucket, you can actually boil that down, dry it out, and that can be turned into blood meal to add to your garden to feed your plants. And then any of these parts and pieces too can also be composted. It takes time for it to break down. And then if you do decide to do one of those soldier fly bin ideas, you can actually put, they'll even take a whole quail down and compost it very, very, very quickly. So hopefully I gave you some tips on how to be less wasteful, what to do with your waste, and maybe you'll even make some really cool crafting projects. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. We appreciate it. You all have a good night.